responding to the queries if you have already attempted. Thank you, Reggie.
Yeah,
I always forget.
yeah, no problem.
Yeah. How is it to go through the reading if you have been going through the reading?
So there's one, the reading itself, the week 1 and 2 reading, has an emphasis on the psychic being quite a bit.
Yeah.
So in that sense, the core stress on the psychic being quite a bit at the
Mm-hmm.
core.
Mm-hmm.
Does it stress on the psychic being? Is that one of the core purposes of the course?
Actually, that is the key in the integral yoga as well. That is the key. Yes.
Right, right,
So the course will help us gradually to actually go towards it only, because that is the ultimate kind of resolution that Mother and Sri Aurobindo have suggested. Before that, nothing can
right,
be kind of, it's kind of, it's the first step in integral yoga. So we have
right,
not even come closer to the first step. We are going towards the first step. So yes, psychic being
right.
is very, very important. Yes.
Okay. And when we refer to the psychic being,
Yeah.
um, so since we all are trying to connect to it,
Mm-hmm.
is every psychic being unique in its own nature, and that becomes part of our soul's nature individually?
Yeah. So it is said that psychic being is our true personality, true individuality is reflected from the
Okay.
psychic being. So they also name it as
Right.
psychic personality because as we were
Right.
talking last time or also in the that depression video that we did,
Right.
that all have a unique set of nature and unique set of skills and talents,
Right.
and we are unable to harness it fully unless
Right.
we are able to be in touch with that psychic personality.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So although
Right.
psychic personality does reflect in our actions, but it's kind of, it's as if it's coming through a curtain, and the curtain
Mm.
is very thick. So
Right.
one has to kind of slowly get rid of the curtain so that it can just completely come in front and run the life.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So will we learn how to connect with the psychic being?
Definitely, that is one of the key purposes, Otherwise,
Right.
it's like, yesterday I was having this image that imagine that you go to the well, there is a
Right.
well in a village and we are all going there.
Right.
So the well has enough water, it's like a big, huge well, very deep. But if I'm carrying a glass, I'll just get a glass full of water. If I'm carrying a matka, I'll get a matka full of water. So it's
Right.
something like that. If whatever we are ready to receive, how much as we are ready to receive, we'll receive in that capacity.
Right.
So this course has been designed keeping in mind that psychic being is the key to
Right.
kind of towards a better life, towards an integral life, towards a life which is holistic, which does not harm anybody else, a life which is not ignorant. So the course
Yes.
has been designed in that way, but again I cannot guarantee, I because
Yeah.
it's kind of a very big well. Sri Aurobindo and the mother are a very big well, but we have to kind of approach them with a, it's a huge surrender that is demanded of us.
Yes.
But if I am ready to receive a glassful, then I will receive a glassful. And later on, maybe, after 1 year or 2 years, I am ready to receive a matka full of blessing. So I'll receive that. It's
Right.
totally individually, up to us, all of us.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Can you throw some light on surrendering more? Like, how do we check? Um, that this is known as surrendering, or this is what I'm doing is surrendering,
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
this is a mistake, it's not surrendering, this is what is the obstruction into it.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, if you see honestly in each and every act, we know whether we have a dual agenda in mind or not. We always have an inkling. One has to be become, conscious of it. That earlier I was doing work through my hidden manipulations. I was talking to that person in a way in which I had a selfish desire. But now, as I want to live a more honest and sincere life, I am aware that yes, I am insincere. I'm talking something else, but I mean something else. So you have to catch your own insincerity, and that is surrender. So catching your own insincerity in action.
Okay,
So
so this
becoming
requires
more
a lot
and
of
more honest.
awareness.
Yes, awareness, and also becoming more and more honest, and also, certain willingness to travel this path. Because if some part of me is ready to travel, to surrender, but the other parts are resisting, so they will say, no, no, I want to be, manipulative. I don't want to surrender right now. So we will experience those situations as well on this path. But then again, slowly all the parts have to be kind of, brought forward, that जैसे छोटे बच्चे को, we kind of puchkaro and, say that it is
Mhm.
good for you, it is good for you. So like that. And coming in touch with psychic being helps, because psychic being is ready to surrender to the divine. It like rushes into the divine. And that is why when the light of the psychic can be touched, then it's easier to coax or cajole mind or emotions or my body onto this path. That is why psychic being is so important, because it has an inherent, it's like a magnet. It is like imagine that divine is an iron and a psychic being is the magnet, or vice versa. So it rushes towards the divine, it rushes towards perfection, it rushes towards sincerity and honesty. And that is why, if once we begin to get in touch with the light of psychic, then it's very easy to kind of samjhao our emotions that this is not right, what you are doing, this is not right, what you are expecting. It's easy to then coax them into understanding. Before that, it's very difficult. Before that, it seems that what my emotions are demanding should happen, like a very stubborn child. What my what I want from this relationship should happen, like that. But once psychic comes begin to come in front, then it's easy, because then you have a light which says, maybe it's not the best for both of us. Maybe we have to stay apart. That is the more in health for both of us, like that. So a bigger understanding dawns because of the presence of psychic. Or you can also take it in another way. It works in both way, that if I'm able to have a look at a larger understanding, it means I am moving towards the psychic. So both ways work. Either psychic comes first and I have a bigger picture, or I begin to have a bigger picture and then I move towards the psychic. Yeah. Welcome, Bulbul.
Monica, I didn't really understand what surrender is. You said catching your own sincerity is surrender.
I That was just one
Sincerity.
dimension of it, just one
So
dimension. So we
surrender is
actually,
like basically like giving up your own self. That's surrender, right? Just assuming that the is taking care of everything. I need not worry. I'll be guided. I'll be taken care of. Isn't that surrender?
yeah, that's completely surrender. But these are only theory at the moment for me. So unless this becomes a living practicality for me, these words have no meaning. So we have to move to surrender in very, kind of a baby steps. So first, honesty,
Hmm.
sincerity,
Hmm.
awareness of
Okay.
what I am saying, what I am meaning, remembrance of the divine presence. These are just, little baby steps. Some may suit some, and some other parts may suit some other people, because it's, everybody has a different nature. So we all arrive at surrender with our different, unique ways. It's not necessary that one way works for all. Yeah. Basically, in surrender, you
Surrender.
are putting yourself aside. So you are saying, I know that I have a mental opinion or a
It's like,
judgment about this. Sorry, once again, Ritu. Ritu, once
I
again.
mean, it's basically like giving up.
No, no, not at all, not at all.
I
So
mean, it's
giving
like
up, yeah.
divine. No?
Sorry.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's what I was asking. It's like
So you are
just
asking
steady
that
yourself.
you're asking surrender means giving up. That is what you're asking?
Yeah.
Okay.
And maybe not 100%, but then yes, some way or the other, if I tell myself the divine is gonna be taking care of everything, so I need not do anything, that's also kind of surrender.
Actually, that is passive surrender. So that is surrender full of inertia. Because
Okay.
if I, just kind of I'm lazing around and I'm saying, divine is going to do everything and I'm not going to, touch a thing. So that is passive surrender, which is full of inertia. And this is not the surrender that we will talk of. We will talk of a
Okay.
active surrender. Active surrender
Okay.
means that, for example, I am I am involved in a conversation with a fellow, and I see that there is one kind of error in my being that is ruling the conversation, that I'm not ready to give up. I'm holding my point tight. Okay. So what I do is uh, I see it. First, I see it in honesty and sincerity that yes, this is what is blocking the understanding. Okay. And then I show it in a way to the divine. I reveal it that yes, this is the thing that has been kind of an obstacle in the understanding. And then kind of also I can kind of pray within that, show us a better way to arrive at a conclusion. So show us a better way to arrive at an understanding. So I am giving up my old ways. You are right in that sense that I am giving up myself, but also actively collaborating, because I am asking divine, tell me what to do, tell me how can I change myself so that this understanding is good for both of us. So it's an active process. It's not that I am lying down and saying that what to do. So it's an active surrender. The divine needs our collaboration for this transformation. Actually, surrender
I
is
can't
the
see. I
sorry,
can't
sorry.
see Bulbul. I can't see Bulbul. Is she there?
Bulbul, are you here? I think her video is off, but I can see her.
Yes, I'm there, but I've kept the video off.
Okay, okay. You want to ask or share something, Bulbul?
No, since I just came in a little while back, I'll listen to you all.
Okay. So, any further questions, queries, or shall I say something then?
So on surrender only, like I was just yesterday when I was reading your replies, I was just thinking that surrender would be like, yeah, now I've got a little more clarity. It's like active surrender and collaboration.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
like if let's say we imagine a situation wherein there's a prisoner who's been behind the bars and he's been following the rules and regulations of the prison, doing whatever the authorities tell him. So initially he would be against all that. He would be repulsive. He would try and have his own will over doing things. But slowly and gradually he gets used to the atmosphere and he starts giving up, he starts following the rules and regulations, and after a while he starts enjoying that imprisonment only. After a while, after a couple of years, he probably would feel a little uncomfortable going out of the prison and living a regular life. So this is also a kind of a surrender. So we can take it in a different way, wherein we surrender our strong beliefs and open ourselves so as to let the divine in. I mean, that's the surrender for us.
Yes, Ritu, and surrender also will be that as long as I was in the prison, I kind of did my best in the prison, and now I'm also ready when I'm out of the prison. So I don't have any attachment to the prison or not to the prison. That is also a part of surrender. Not to have any attachment
Mm.
to any kind of living or any kind of opinion or any kind of, a certain way that one get used to. Yeah.
So in a way, most of us, when we are living a regular life, doing a monotonous job or something like this, and still we just kind of tell ourselves, this is okay, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's a kind of surrender.
Monica, you're on mute, I think.
Sorry. Could you say it again, Ritu? I didn't get your question fully.
Yeah, what I'm saying is surrenders can be of different forms. Like in a day-to-day lives, I mean, we get used to the daily routine, the daily kind of work we are doing. I mean, initially, probably we would use our brain and think, oh, I need to do something better. I need to improve myself. I need to probably, make some changes. But when we are in the middle age, we reach such a stage wherein we surrender. We just say, okay, this life is okay. I mean, what's wrong? Everyone's living a life like this. So we keep on getting into that daily
Okay, I'll just stop
cycle
you
of
there.
things.
I'll just, sorry, stop you there because surrender doesn't mean that I become adapted to an ill-formed way of life. This is not surrender. Surrender is that, surrender means that inwardly I know that I don't know the best all the time, and there is a higher consciousness which I can have access to at times, which knows the best or which has a higher picture. So surrender means that I will do the best and I'll do everything as an offering without any selfish motive behind it in whatever situation I am kept in. It does not mean that I am getting used to a certain way of life. That is completely not surrender. That is again attachment because I am attaching myself to a certain way of life. I am saying, oh God, you have given this, so I become this. Maybe for a moment, yes, but if now I am thrown into a different situation, I am without a complaint on my word, on my tongue. I am ready to adapt because I had no attachment either to that way of life or neither do I have attachment to this way of life. So anything that sticks, one can be sure that it is not surrender. If anything is sticking to me, if I am tied and glued like a wall to an opinion, to a way of life, to even a person, you know, because even a relationship, I don't know how helpful that relationship is for both of us. So if that relationship is now ready to break and I'm clinging to it because, this is what I want, this is maybe, my life is shattering. So again, this is not surrender because I have to realize maybe now it is important for us to move. So I had a good time with you, but now maybe some other plan.
But then how will we realize that this particular action or this kind of event is happening because I have surrendered? It's not because of my intrusion, no, of my wills or my imposition of thoughts. It's happening, but it's
Yeah.
purely because divine wants it to happen. So how
Yeah.
to judge that?
So in surrender, there is no judgment of that kind also. So I would not even need to judge that whether this was, because there are many a times a mixture of both. There are many a times a mixture of my selfishness and some, even my selfishness is also a part of, everything is coming ultimately from the divine. We will not go there because that is, far from us. So I'll say that if I have created a situation which is out of my selfishness, how can I make sure that it is a divine intervention, or because of surrender, or because of my selfish motive? The only thing I can do is, no matter what has happened in the past, maybe this situation is arising out of my selfishness. But now that I am ready to surrender and actively collaborate in it, what is the best I can do? That is surrender. Not even wanting to ask whether, it was the divine wanted this situation to happen or not. Doing our best and also doing our work as an offering. Actually, this topic of surrender comes at the end. Once you get in touch closer to the psychic being is ready to surrender. It's a child who is just going to just chipko to the mama immediately. So mama, imagine mama is the divine and psychic being is our true personality. So it's ready to surrender. It says, yes, 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 I want to surrender. So that is why surrender is the last topic that I have kept, because before that we need to kind of understand this suffering aspect a little more, which is on the shallow surface, which belongs to the ego. So I was reading yesterday about desire soul and the true soul that Sri Aurobindo and Mother talks of. It's very interesting, very, very interesting. That, so at the moment where we work from mostly is the desire soul, which is also physically in, the front part of the heart is the desire soul, the emotions, the demands, the expectations. And if I look at my life right now, it is full of those demands, those expectations from people, from world, it should change, from even myself. So that is all desire soul. And once, so the thing that we are at, the path that we are at, we will be allowing ourselves to achieve our highest potential, which is to to connect with the soul and to bring it forward. अभी तो क्या हो रहा है? अभी desire soul is running my life, and it is the desire soul, when its expectations and demands are not met, it cries like a child. Oh, why is this not happening? I want this, like a child. But once we touch that air or that light of the sun that shines within, then it does not even need to be coaxed, because it sees what lies in front of it. So it's like desire soul or the ego, it surrenders that, oh wow, what was I missing? So our movement through this course is going to be, from the surface, from the ego, and then going towards the touch of the psychic, and then last comes surrender. So we can still obviously talk and discuss about surrender, but it comes really towards the end.
Does
So are there
pain?
different,
Okay, you can go on. I'll ask later.
okay, so are there different souls, like desire soul, non-desire soul? I mean, isn't soul just one?
Yeah, actually in common language, which we say that, for example, grandfathers or grandmothers sometimes say, I want to see your marriage happening before I go away, something like that. So that is desire soul. That is the emotional part of us, and obviously that is coming also from a past life. जो लास्ट लाइफ में आपकी एक्सपेक्टेशंस और डिमांड्स रह गई थी, वो अब आप इस लाइफ में फुलफिल करना चाहते हो. एंड कबीर ऑल्सो सेज, माया मरी न मन मरा, मर मर गए शरीर, आशा तृष्णा ना मरी, कह गए दास कबीर. So this asha and trishna, the thirst for a longing for a relationship or life to run in one way, this asha, demands from people, expectation from people, they don't die. We carry them as our karmas, and we bring that potli in this life. So that is termed in integral yoga as desire soul. And then comes the true soul or true Atman, a true soul, actually, I would not use the word Atman, uh, which is the true psychic personality, which we were talking earlier of, the psychic being. Now, this psychic being, as you will know later, it is collecting experiences from all the past lives. And it is kind of, forming us, it is shaping us. Like a pebble, lying in the river, it is getting shaped by the river's flow. It is getting smoother and, maybe getting a perfect shape for itself. And that is how psychic being is. It's collecting the movements of all the lives and forming it into a true personality. That is what true soul is, according to integral yoga again. So actually there is only one soul, Ritu, but Sri Aurobindo had said that there is double soul in man, because in normal language when we use that मेरी आत्मा की ये demand है ना, तो that is referring to the desire soul, the one full of expectations and demands. It is not the true soul. Yeah. And slowly what we do is we desire soul is like a child who has to be coaxed, who has to be convinced. But once the light of the soul shines, then the desired soul can be easily convinced. Then the movements of our thoughts, our opinions, our judgments, about our feelings, they can all see the light of the soul. They can, kind of get a bigger and better perspective for a healthier life.
Do we carry our pains from the past, and do these pains have an impact on the psychic being also?
Are you talking of physical pain or emotional pain?
I'm not clear actually, physical or emotional, but many a times I personally feel that certain particular kind of pains I'm not able to get freed, maybe because I'm carrying it from many times.
Yeah,
Now
yeah.
if like that kind of pains, does it go with your psychic being, and does it have an impact on your psychic being at some level?
Yeah, so the beauty of psychic being is that it just harbors all the experiences. For it, nothing is good and nothing is bad. Everything, life is a continuous process of experimentation and evolution. So it does not harbor any pain. If you're talking of pain, it must be coming from the desire soul only.
So
All the
can there
pain,
be
all
some
the
past,
suffering lies in the
where does the
desire soul.
past memories then they go? Like I've read couple of books also wherein they say that particularly in psychology they refer to the therapies in hypnotherapy and all, that they take you in the trance and then
Yeah,
you come across some sort of experience, and once they reveal that experience out, they are almost, the catharsis has been done to some extent. So
yeah.
where does these kind of memories actually impact your being, and can that be released out? Does it ever go, or it
Yeah,
remains
yeah.
with you forever?
Actually, again, I'm coming back to the psychic being again, because I think there is no ultimate resolution until you touch that light. For example, I'll give you an example. Actually, there is a little visual that I wrote about. Imagine that you are going on a trek, and I am kind of pulling you that, Nehal, let's go. It'll be fun, and you are not convinced fully, but you say, okay, Monica is saying, so I will go. you know so on the way you are kind of cribbing and complaining also, look, the water is not nice, the sun is shining too bright, things like that, because somewhere inside you are not fully convinced. Okay, had you be convinced, you have been enthusiastically walking forward. So there is a moment when we touch, through our hike, we touch a place where, something really changes in the air. So the air becomes fresher, there are flowers all around, and you see fresh water running, and something in you now changes. Now you say, maybe it's something nice on this path. Maybe I can lose all that cribbing and complaining and look forward to the path. So that is again, referring to the air or touch of the psychic being. Unless I touch something higher within me, this cribbing, complaining, the emotional pains, the past memories are not going to go away. I will be clinging to it because I have to see that there is something more that awaits me. I have to see that actually, people say that there is some light in us, some divine in us. It's actually true because now I have seen it for myself. Earlier, it was just a theory. So then you come out from theory to your experience, practical experience, that yes, I know for sure that there is a fresher air there because I have touched it, I have felt it. So now you need not convince yourself, you're already convinced. And that is why a lot of perseverance, a lot of faith is required to walk on this path, because the burden that we are carrying is from a lifetime, and just walking a few months on this path will not help. One has to really devote himself. Yeah.
So, do you think that the cases like those who are suffering through lot of physical agony because of some kind of disaster, or maybe some natural calamity, or some sort of physical violence like rapes and all, can they come out of all of their physical and mental emotional pains if they realize psychic being?
Actually, Nehal, it depends on the willingness. I cannot do it for that person. Even Sri Aurobindo and Mother cannot do it for anybody else. It has to be invoked. It has to be willingly invited that, okay, I am ready to put my suffering aside for some time, and I'm ready to walk this path because I have seen that suffering only brings me misery and I don't want misery in life. Sri Aurobindo and Mother has also said at one instance that human beings, love misery in their life. We develop a rasa in misery. So if I am having that rasa from misery, nobody can take me out from that misery.
Okay, and one more question, like if somebody has suffered this kind of issues, is it that they permanently get injured with their internal beings?
Not at all, not at all, because again, as I told you, that for psychic being, even rape and murder is nothing but an experience. You would be really, it's conflicting to our normal thoughts, but even murder, even rape, or anything else apart from suicide, because suicide is unnatural. Uh, all these things are only experiences for psychic being. So it processes those experiences and assimilates. For psychic being, nothing is wrong or right or ethical or unethical.
Okay, and how about the emotions like anger and fear?
Yeah.
So these are like anger and fear has nothing to do with pain as such, but it does the psychic being carry that, or it has nothing to do with even anger and fear?
So anger and fear again are belonging to the desire soul and also our ego consciousness. And again, as I told you, even anger becomes an experience for the psychic being. So psychic being takes everything in a very, very positive light. Psychic being only assimilates the experiences that it needs to assimilate. It does not assimilate the pain and the suffering coming from the anger or even fear. So fear is also an experience, and psychic being will go through it, will see it through the lens of the ego, and will assimilate whatever is needed to be assimilated.
Okay.
So nothing is harming the psychic being, everything is being assimilated in psychic being.
Then how do we grow then? If like so many things are assimilated, then how will we reach the divine in a purer form?
So these assimilations, experiences, see what is happening. I might have a very limited point of view to begin with. In class 1, I have a very limited point of view. Now I am moving along in life and I am assimilating experiences. Oh, I used to think that smoking is bad, but smoking is not that bad as also. I learn in class 6, and then I change again. I in class 7 I say, maybe smoking is injurious, but for that person he lived so much without caring about health, even though he was smoking. So what I'm doing all through these experiences, I'm seeing all the possible point of views. It's not that my point of view is right. And when we talk of Brahman or the divine is also individual, limited, and the divine is also infinite possibilities. So that for the divine, it does not mean whether one person is eating meat, so he's lower in caste, or he should not be talked with. And if I am a totally vegan or vegetarian person, I am better or spiritual than any other person. For divine, this does not matter at all. So what psychic being is doing is, psychic being is moving from individuality to universality. It's assimilating so many experiences, and now it's able to look at a bigger picture. Okay, I used to think that only this is okay, but now I see, oh, this much is okay. And this is again movement in the divine, towards the divine, because now we are moving from one point to a universality, which is the Brahman. Brahman includes everything, it does not exclude anything. So that is why where you resolve these issues like even anger, fear, rape, murder, they all become a part of experience.
Okay, so those things that the psychic being has assimilated, they are going to be useful for a person to go closer to the divine.
Definitely, because it
So
is giving you more understanding. Yeah.
okay, so what I understand is that it will like assimilate only those things which are very positive, and nothing which is bad.
So I just want to say that there is no burden on the psychic being.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very light, and it's constantly in touch with the divine light. That is why it's able to see a bigger picture. And that is why when we are talking about this course, for example, now I am very stuck in my limited walls of consciousness, in ego consciousness, and that is why I am suffering, because I want this kind of life, but something else is happening, so I'm suffering. And I am saying, let's begin this walk towards the psychic being, because we are going to see something different. So you in faith, you kind of hold Sri Aurobindo's and mother's hand, and you begin to walk. And once you begin even to touch this air of the psychic, you see that actually there was a bigger perspective present, but which I was not able to see when I was walled in my ego consciousness. So maybe it was important for me to go through all that hurt and emotional troubles, in order to realize and empathize with others who are going through the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Monica, how does this pain and suffering come? We see some people who have a very struggling life always, and some people who always have a very comfortable life. So, I mean, how does the divine decide whom to give a life of pain and suffering and whom to give a comfortable life? I mean, what's the logic behind that?
So Ritu, it's not somebody extra personal that is divine. So again, one has to change our image in the mind. There is no other divine, and this is me, and who is designing my destiny. As a soul, I am the divine. Now, according to my stages of evolution, I am deciding, okay, these are the experiences I want to go in this life, because the other part I have already experienced in the past life. I choose, I decide. There is no other person called divine who is choosing for us. So even so-called seeming struggles or a hard life in this particular life, maybe in the past life I have enjoyed a very luxurious life, and in this life I wanted to be a poor fellow who has a lot of struggle, because that is what I wanted to experience. So how the psychic being grows is through opposite experiences. One experience I have of a life which is full of luxury, and I have experienced it. Now in the next one, because I'm not afraid at all, Psychic being is not afraid. For him, for psychic being, everything is an experience. So now I am ready to see, okay, what is life like when you are really poor and you have lots of struggles and your relationships really suck. How is life in that kind of a situation? So it's me who is deciding, the part of me which is constantly in touch with the divine, that is the soul. So nobody else is deciding for me. There is no one else. So there is a very beautiful, I thought maybe we'll play a game if we are kind of done, which will give us a perspective on this opposites, how opposites are so important. So Sri Aurobindo and Mother have said, uh, I don't know really in kind of, they have said a lot about this, but maybe let's see, we'll try to do something about it. So for example, if I give you two opposing statements, okay? One is God is ruthless, and one is God is kind. So what Sri Aurobindo suggested was that both of these opposite statements are actually one in their root, in their essence. And that is what he has explained through his really big works of the Life Divine, or the Synthesis of Yoga, where he takes all the possible opinions. This is again, Nehal, to answering to your question. Now psychic being is assimilating all the possible experiences, and it is saying yes, divinity is one, yet it is universal. So when I'm using two opposing statements, which is God is ruthless and God is kind, then we can really have a discussion here on, maybe one person says, okay, I believe that God is ruthless, and the other person says, no, I think God is kind. And you can actually begin to talk and understand why each of you is saying that. And slowly, 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 you begin to arrive at a synthesis that yes, these two are kind of, the root is the one. Both of us are actually pointing towards one thing, although seeming opposite uh, thing. And this also in the document that you have, the first document, it says that this also makes your mind supple. It makes your mind more wide. That yes, even a person is having a conflicting view, I can still have an understanding with that person if we are ready to see that understanding. So if you are game to it, we can actually play this game. So, but we need actually two people who are ready to stand for one God is ruthless and one God is kind. So if there is anything, if there is anyone who would like to stand up and talk about it. What do you think, Ritu?
I
Which
would go
statement?
for ruthless.
Okay, good. Anybody else for the opposing statement?
Yeah. I guess I can go with God is kind.
Okay, beautiful. So what Ritu will do is, Ritu will present a few points why she thinks God is ruthless, and then Reggie will present a few points why he thinks that God is kind. Go ahead.
So I would give a personal example only. When I say God is ruthless, I mean, I used to be always very happy with God, and I would always think that God is kind, because I would always think that, okay, whatever happens, whatever the experiences are, at the end of the day, it's for some good purpose or reason. But then, I mean, there are some situations wherein you are put into which are in your control and you feel helpless. So in that situation, when you look at the things around, you do kind of sometimes feel that yes, God is ruthless. Maybe if I start understanding my psychic self, if I start experiencing the divine around me, I might have a different opinion. But at this point of time, I still feel that somewhere or the other, So my personal experience was that a couple of months back, it was my brother who expired, who was 35, and that kind of left my family in a very bad state because he had a family with small children. One child was not born, so he's 3 months now, and the other child was 3.5 years old. And then there were his parents who were around 75-year-old. So he was handling the entire family, the financials also, and otherwise supporting the family in every possible way. So this makes me feel that I'm sure such kind of things must be happening with a lot of people, but somewhere or the other, it does give an impression that God is ruthless.
Thank you, Ritu. Redzi.
Do I make my own points just randomly,
Yeah,
or do
your
I
own, from your own
something?
experiences. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. I never believed in. Actually, I never been looked into the concept of a soul or anything until up a few years ago, because I wasn't an atheist, but I didn't care about the existence of any of this, so I was indifferent to it. But when life knocked me down hard enough, I started looking deep within, and slowly but surely, I started connecting the dots backwards, and everything that I experienced seemed to lead me to this point. In that sense, it was a great opportunity for me to grow, evolve, and get here. Because if I wasn't knocked down that hard, I wouldn't get here. So, for instance, even the fact that I had to go through all my work life has not been the most pleasant. I've had conflicts with my bosses. I've had standoffs. I've had face-offs with colleagues. I've had difference of opinions. But I see that now, and I used to hate that period of time when I used to be going through that. I used to feel alone, and I used to feel like, hey, I'm standing here alone, getting battered, and I'm most likely going to get fired because I'm trying to take my own stand, or I'm bending over and just agreeing to people. Both those experiences of bending over and taking my own stand made me connect to myself better somehow, because that helped me detach from that eventually, because I was so attached to that pain and struggle that I felt while I was going through the whole process of dealing with these people at work. Once I started detaching from it, it stopped bothering me that much. And once it started bothering me less, I started going within, and that actually led me to deeper exploration within. That's how it started. And then I started, when you start seeking within, I guess you just get led to something or the other. One thing led to another. So 2 years of exploration, I reached a book by Sri Aurobindo, and that's how I got hooked onto this. Somebody brought me to one of the lectures by Dr. Ramesh Vitlani, who was giving a talk on, I believe it was on friendship, and friendship in the words of the mother. And I thought this is so profound, because I used to argue with my friends all the time about what is real friendship versus what is not friendship. And there would be difference of opinions, because it's your opinion of friendship versus their opinion of friendship. And here, when he talked about friendship through the mother's words, I was like, see, this is for me. This sounds like the ultimate ideal of friendship, even though I've gone through so many ups and downs with the term friendship. So, life experience of actually getting battered in friendship is what made my understanding thorough and made me able to connect to her words better. So, in a sense, that is the experience, the play between bad and good, and how that gets you to the ultimate goal. Sometimes I face an incident that's really bad in the past. Suppose I remember I had this really big crush on this girl once when I was, I think, 19 or something, and she really ignored me and treated me really badly because she made fun of me, and it was a very painful experience because I was very young and I was really into her, and so I eventually, long story cut short, I ended up dating her 5 or 6 years down the line. But it just so turns out that experience, even though it was painful for me, I somehow left a mark on her enough for me to come back and actually date that girl 5 years later. which was, when I look back at it at that point in time, that experience was important for this to happen. But at that point, I would never think that experience is important. At that point, it was just pain. And so I wanted to run away from that person and that situation. But now when I go through pain or go through something, I always, it's in simple layman's language, it's that positive outlook. You always, it's for a reason. There is a reason. You may not know it. It may not reveal itself, but there has to be that faith in the divine that there is a reason and I should go through this. That's that faith but that faith doesn't come overnight. It took a while to develop. So even for me, it took years to really cement in my system that, listen, no matter how bad it is, just hold on. Don't lose that faith. Because it's very easy to lose it. I've lost it for so long that now that I've started to recognize it, I don't want to lose it, even if it throws me on the road. I'll be like, oh, this is also for a reason. I'll learn from the road, what I need to learn and get back on my feet. So it's that attitude, because through experiences like these few examples I was giving, colleagues and workplace and this girl who blew me off, it all comes around and it shapes me. If that didn't happen, nothing would shape me. Actually, I would just be really dumb in a way, really blind and obtuse. When I say dumb, obtuse to a higher knowledge of some sort, or wanting to seek anything. I wouldn't want to seek anything. Why would I care? I wouldn't care. So that's why I feel like there is a good in this God, even though it may come off in the most ruthless, most brutal ways possible. And sometimes, you just need to, it's like that parent with the stick. Is a disciplinarian, it's disciplining you to get better. That's about it. So it's on mute.
Thank you, Reggie. So actually, you simplified my work, because the train of thoughts that you were talking about, you actually towards the end, you synthesized both. So you said, yes, the God is kind because it is leading us to be a better and better human being, and yes, he is ruthless. So this is what I was hinting at, that
Right.
on the surface it may seem that these two persons are talking extremely opposite things. God is ruthless, God is kind. Even what Ritu said in the beginning, she said that it was nice, and things were fine. That means that during that time she actually felt God is kind. Only when the things did not move according to me, then I started to begin to think that God is ruthless. And now in no time you will be saying again that God is kind, that because you will be shown the light that you have been wanting to seek. So it's like a mixture of both. So life is not white and black, it's white, black, plus all the shades that come in between. And we kind of have to respect all the shades, all the possible opinions that all of us have. So this is one of the thing which really kind of really inspires me in Sri Aurobindo and Mother, because they tell us that even if you're talking to a person who is completely opposite to you, you can reach a point of common understanding if there is a willingness. So it may seem, even for example, we were talking that day on the depression session, so even in depression, on the surface, it may seem it's so dark and everything, but if you actually closely see, it is a seeking for light. Is that seeking bad? It's seeking for light. It's really a very positive intention. It's just that it has to be now directed in a way which is full of light. It has to be directed in a way that I have to now really realize the futility of demanding and expecting from all the people and situations outside. So now I have to direct within. But my intention in depression is actually pure. My intention is that I want to seek light, I want to have harmony in my life, and I want to have a better life. It's only that my seeking is distorted. So this is how we kind of synthesize and make the mind wide, again moving towards the divine, the universal aspect of the divine. Yeah, any comments, any suggestions? Bulbul, you are really very quiet. If you want to
But
say
I am listening. I am listening.
Okay, good to know. Yeah. So anything else, or shall we just call it a day today? If there is no comment, no
So,
question.
Monica, one thing, let's say we say that, okay, God is just disciplining us. He is just making us, helping us to realize His presence and helping us to look around and actually look within and then kind of make changes in our life so as to move on in the right way. So, like if we imagine God as a teacher or a principal, so there are ways of discipline for disciplining children. One
Yeah.
would be, okay, there are children using a mobile in the class. You take the mobile away and the child focuses on you. The other would be, okay, if the child is just not listening, you just slap him once and then the child listens to you. And then there can be another way, you take a stick and you hit the child so hard that it breaks his spine. So that's not being disciplined. That you're not disciplining a child. You're breaking the child, right?
Yeah, yeah, I
So
agree.
it's a very narrow line between how you discipline the other person.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
So
in the latter situation, I don't understand why there can't be more gentle ways
gentle
of.
way. Yeah, 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 yeah. I understand what you're saying, Ritu. So first of all, God is not a disciplinarian. Okay, that is again only one point of one our image that we are looking at. So God is not a disciplinarian, and again, we should not refer to God as something separate from us who is trying to hit at us. Okay, again, but I will still move on. Now, this pitai that I feel so hard at the moment. Uh, Imagine that this boy who really got a pitai in his childhood, after 10 years of a time, he realizes that if I had not gotten that pitai, I would have become a drug addict, for example. After 10 years. So, all these 10 years, he has been cribbing and complaining about that teacher who hit him really hard on having drugs. Because he did not have that thing, he did not become a better person. The moment light began to shine within him, only then I realized, oh my god, had I not been hit so hard by that fellow, I would have been really gone down the drain with all those drugs and everything. So again faith comes into picture. First of all, Ritu, I would like to say that it's not God that wants you to progress, you have an aspiration to progress. All of you
No,
who
a
have
lot of times
enrolled in
people
this
say that pain and suffering is good for you because it kind of takes you in the right direction. Otherwise, you were just busy in the regular life, not
yeah,
bothering about the bigger picture. So in a way, it's good. It's a gift for you that you're going through pain and suffering.
yeah,
So if people say like that, so in a way, it's like a punishment kinds. Okay, you were not looking at me. So this is a way of my telling you that, okay, now look around. I mean, you're not looking in the right direction.
you can say for the moment you can hold on to that opinion, but you will change, you will be constantly spontaneously changing that opinion after some time. It's one kind of seeing, and I'm not saying that it is wrong or right. This is how you feel in the moment. Okay, so it is completely fine. And the other thing is that also one may realize that I maybe I lost one fellow. Okay, one never oh, I'll tell you this small incident. Actually, there was a disciple of Sri Aurobindo, and he comes to Sri Aurobindo and says that I have to go for that wedding, but I am not going because it's written in my astrological patri that if I, there is a accident waiting for me to happen. So I am sending this some other fellow to that wedding so that I am not hurt. So Sri Aurobindo says okay, and then what happens is after a few days after that wedding has happened, this guy has not gone. He's walking, this fellow sadhak is walking with a friend on the beach in Pondicherry, and that fellow has a small stick in his hand, and he kind of pokes it in his knee, and he gets a septic. Okay, now after many years later, some other sadhak who was very very close to Sri Aurobindo reveals that Sri Aurobindo, using his divine powers obviously, What he did was he changed the incident a little bit, that instead of his leg getting cut because of the septic, he changed the situation that only a small needle would be enough to have this experience, and use that needle, and okay, he will go through septic a bit easily. But this picture was given to the sadhak many years later, that something big was going to happen, but you were kind of given something little. For example, I'm saying that if I am to drown in an incident, or if I am like all my family is to drown, I drown in that incident, and people are crying, why did she drown, why did she drown? They are not aware that all of you were going to drown. Now what would you say? So what I'm saying is that there is again a higher plan, a bigger picture, which we have no idea of. We have no idea how your brother had kind of made a plan with you before coming into this life. We have no idea about that. But still, it's okay to have kind of passing opinions and passing even judgments about life. We all have that. But give yourself the opportunity that there is something more which I don't see at the moment. Just that. And it does not matter whether I am saying God is ruthless or God is kind, because God is what he is or she is. It does not matter. Our saying will not change the perception. But that one thing is true, which mother has also said, that if I have a very strong image in my mind that God is a strict and a cruel teacher, throughout my life I will be feeling that yes, that is what he is. So he becomes what you want. He becomes, if I want to say that God is really kind, he helps in every kind of a situation that I am stuck, then he will behave like that. So it's like again Krishna, it's Leela, कि जो तुम मुझे समझोगे मैं वैसा बन जाऊंगा, तुम छुपा छुपी खेलोगे तो मैं छुपा छुपी खेलने लग जाऊंगा. Something like that. So just a reflection of it. So he's open to all kind of interpretations. He does not mind any interpretation. So हमारे बोलने से गॉड को फर्क नहीं पड़ रहा कि ये बोल रही है ruthless, तो उसके लिए तो हम बच्चे हैं. Imagine, there was again one story of a mother. Mother had a really very favorite sadhak. She was called Huta Didi. And once what happened, she was very, very angry at the mother. And she said, she threw flowers at the mother and said, you don't love me, I'm going away from the ashram. And then she went away to her room and started to pack her bags and everything. And what mother did, mother sent a card with some blessings or something written on it through another sadhak to Hutadi. And Hutadi said, just keep it there, I will have a look later. And that sadhak said that, don't you want to know what mother was saying when you went away? So that Hutadi said, okay, tell me, what was she saying? So she said, mother was saying she doesn't even know how much she loves me. Because you can become mad only at a person who really, loves you, whom you have a deep connection for. Because I cannot get, jaise aapko, Ritu, the feeling that you have right now, you cannot have this feeling for a stranger. Will you be, really mad at a stranger? You will be mad at a fellow who is really close to you. So you feel that you don't love him, you really love him more than maybe, all of us, because you can be mad at him. And another story, the last little story that, I would like to say here. There was a Hanuman Bhakt, and he was just praying to Hanuman again and again, and something he demanded that was not happening. So he said that what I will do is that I will change the God. You are not worth it. So he took that statue of the Hanuman and he put it somewhere above on his altar, and he put another god in front, another deity in front, and started to light the agarbattis. So one day he was lighting the agarbatti to that other god, and he suddenly realized, oh my God, I have kept that Hanuman over there. He must be getting the smell of the incense. So, and that time Hanuman really appeared in front of him, because he said, this shows me that you really care for me and you know that I am real, that I am getting the incense smell up there. So, that kind of a faith and that kind of a relationship with God. It's really touching. Yeah. Anything else?
So Bulbul was there
um,
in the call or not? I see a bee, but I don't see her. I mean, I know. I'm still wondering.
you're talking about Bulbul?
Yeah.
I think she's there. She's listening today.
Yeah, I'm just listening, and I think what you should be seeing is a picture of me.
Yeah, we
I've
are
just
seeing
No.
a picture of
with
you
a
with a
big
big.
pumpkin or a squash in my hand.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So week 2 is ending, and I'll be soon sharing the next week stuff with you, all of you, and really look forward to more discussions, more questions, and more doubts, because those are ones, which will propel us further uh, towards the other weeks and towards ultimately the surrender thing. Yeah,
So Monica, one thing we didn't discuss today,
yeah.
there was this question in your questionnaire wherein you said you imagine yourself with pain and suffering,
Mm-hmm.
and then narrate that incidents. So how do we do that? I mean, I just couldn't do it. I would close my
Yeah.
eyes and imagine pain to be a guy and suffering to be a girl, and they're coming to meet me. I offer them tea. I mean, how do we do that?
Yeah, you can do that way also, imagining them to be of a particular gender and kind of humanizing them. Or you can just, kind of uh, sit in silence.
Hmm.
And when I sit in silence and I close my eyes, for example, then I have that feeling how it feels to be with that suffering. It requires a lot of stillness in the being, only then you can meet. And then I see that, oh, I'm actually holding a lot of grudge towards you, for example. If you are considering it even to be a person, doesn't matter. I see that I'm holding a lot of opinion about you, that you should not be there in my life. Why are you here? Just tell me, why are you here? Because I don't want you in my life. So that's such kind of a talk, very honest, sincere talk, and just writing on the paper whatever is coming to your mind when you feel that aura of pain or suffering with you.
But I would only have questions. Where will I get the answers from? I mean,
uh,
if I ask pain and suffering, okay, what are you doing here and stuff like that.
so first,
So
for example, if you are going to meet a friend,
yeah.
so you don't decide beforehand that whether I'll be getting the answers or not. You go with an open mind. Let's see whether I get my answers, or maybe they are still lying unresolved, the questions. So
No, I
open
tried
mind.
doing it. I
Yeah,
tried doing it 2, 3 times. But when I
yeah.
close my eyes and I try and imagine, okay, I'm in face-to-face conversation with pain and suffering, and I can ask them any questions. So it's just one-sided. I ask them questions, but then, I mean, there is no response.
Again, the one thing that we are doing again and again is uh, kind of separating. We are kind of separating God also as a person, and now suffering also as a person. So one thing I can suggest, if you really want to do this exercise, you have to feel that in your body. Feel that suffering and even pain, if it's physical pain or emotional pain. Feel that in your body. Feel which part of the body you feel it very strongly, because it is not something external, it is a part of you. So, and then you can also ask question, why are you at that location where I feel you? Why are you at the heart center? You can just ask any kind of questions. Feel free to ask any questions. I am sure maybe we don't get all the answers, but questions are important to be asked. So you ask, why are you not in my knee? And maybe you kind of get to know something new. Why are you not in my toe? Why are you there in my heart? These are just kind of a few things that I am talking about. And also feel physically in the body, viscerally in the body. How does it feel when you feel really suffering, and you're not kind of trying to push it away? And even if there is a resistance, even if you want to push it away, note that down, that yes, this was what was happening when I was trying to push you away, and this is what happened when I stopped resisting you and having thoughts about you. It's just like, I'm meeting an old friend. I had a, like 5 years ago, I had a very big tussle with this friend, and now when I meet this friend, two things can happen. I can meet this friend with all that image of 5 years ago. How would that be a meeting? Or I can meet this friend that, that was just one thing, and maybe this friend has something more to share with me. So you can, try many permutations and combinations of doing this.
In fact, I've tried it many times. Even Taru also has told me to do this quite a number of times, but then it's never worked with me.
It doesn't matter. You see, totally up to you, Ritu, again, that you want to try it again, maybe with a different approach. See what all did you try in the rest of the approaches, and now maybe can you change the approach a little, whatever suits you. You will get a feeling from inside that this is the right way to meet pain and suffering. You will get a feeling from inside. And again, there is no one outcome that I am expecting out of this question. It's just like you are meeting a friend and anything can happen. Maybe you begin to go on a business venture together, or maybe you part ways for all the, for coming years. So anything can happen. Yeah. So also regarding that question on aim, I also wanted to talk it with Radhe as well. So or maybe we can, I don't know, because the next week is starting now. Or so the aim, the question on aim, that a aimless life is a miserable life, and if you have a higher aim, how does it help? So I had commented individually on your submissions, but I would also like to say how to use this. For example, Ritu had mentioned that my aim is to remain calm. Now, how to use this aim in my day-to-day activities in order to guide me towards a better life? So what I will do is that if I am going to enter a kind of a argument with a person, I have to remember my aim. It's not only just enough that I have written it down in a document and gone. I have to be occupied with this aim throughout sleeping and waking time, hours of my life. So when I'm entering into this argument with a person, I again remind myself of my aim. Ritu, what is your aim? My aim is to remain calm in every situation. Okay, and using that light, I now enter the discussion, because somehow you will see that we decide on one aim, but because of not being occupied with it throughout, what we do is we change the aim. So we say, now in this discussion, it's important that I prove my standpoint. Being calm or being peaceful is not important. So if we keep on changing the aim, then it will not be able to show us the light. So it's very important that I be occupied with my aim throughout my activities of the day and night. Yeah. So that is one thing I wanted to talk about, the aim thing. So the better the aim, the higher the aim, that, being calm is a beautiful aim. It's a very high aim. And the better it has the power to drive you to a life which is more calm, more peaceful. Again, you had mentioned, or Radhe had also mentioned, to progress spiritually is my aim. To feel the divine presence is my aim. Now, if you look at this aim, it's really a very beautiful and high aim. And the moment I begin to use it in my daily life, you will see that there are so many situations where you avoid chaos and confusion and, arguments out of no reason. But we have to utilize it, we have to use it. Yeah. So that's all from my side. Anything else, or shall I say thank you, everyone, for attending, for being here, for questioning, answering?
Today's session was really good. Lots of stories.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was a
Thank
part
you.
also that said there are four aspects that we need to look at, right? The mental, the physical,
Yeah.
along with the psychic.
Yes.
So in the course, will we also be looking at how to kind of align these to the psychic? How you can
Actually,
align the...
not really. So this is not yet a part of course, but
Okay.
maybe, based on your suggestions, we can make it for the next year. When we launch
Okay.
this next year, if it is really
Okay.
necessary, because this course was completely focused on pain, suffering, and its resolution. And
Okay.
obviously, mental, vital, and physical disciplines are very much a part of integral yoga, but not
Right.
really a part of this pain, suffering aspect. So I did not
Right.
include it. But if we see that it is important, then maybe next year I include it in the course.
Okay. 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 Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ritu. Thank you, Nehal, Bulbul,
Thank
Reggie.
you,
Thank you.
Monica.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Bye, Reggie. Bye, Nehal.
See you.
Bye,
Bye. See
Bulbul.
you.
Reggie,
Bye.
you will send me the recording?
Yes, yes, it'll come on once it's done.
Okay, it will come on Skype. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Bye.
See you. See you guys. Bye. See you.